I thought we had the perfect marriage. 5 years of trust, shared plans, no doubts. But one night, my friends dragged me to a club, even though I just wanted to stay home and watch a documentary. And there, in the crowd, I saw my wife. She was kissing another man. The worst part? If I hadn't gone that night, I'd still be living a lie. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Andrew. I'm 34 years old. My wife's name is Melissa. She's a marketing executive, and she travels a lot for work. We were together for 6 years, 5 of them married. And I trusted her completely. When she'd pack her suitcase and say, "I'm heading to Seattle for 3 days," I'd just kiss her cheek and tell her to have a good trip. Why would you ever doubt someone you love? Looking back now, I realize how naive that sounds. But that's the whole point of trust. It's supposed to be absolute, right? Otherwise, it's not really trust. The second you start questioning every trip, checking receipts, glancing at phone logs, that's when you know something's already fallen apart. I never wanted to be that husband. The guy who smothers his partner with suspicion. Melissa and I met at a mutual friend's wedding. Cliché, I know. She was the bridesmaid who caught the bouquet, and I was the groomsman who kept her laughing during that endless photo session. We swapped numbers, had our first date at an Italian place downtown, and I remember thinking that night, this woman is different. She was ambitious, driven, confident. She knew exactly what she wanted. I admired that about her. I was working as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company, comfortable enough, but not exactly passionate. She made me want to be better, to aim higher, to actually care about my career instead of just coasting through. Our courtship was intense. Weekend trips to the mountains, conversations that stretched till dawn, inside jokes that left us breathless with laughter. When I proposed on a beach in Mexico, under a sunset that looked like it had been painted just for that moment, she cried and said yes before I could even finish my memorized speech. The wedding was beautiful. Her parents loved me, mine adored her. Everyone said we were perfect together, and I believed it. With every fiber of my being. The first year of marriage was an adjustment, just like everyone warned us. Learning to share space, to compromise on everything from the thermostat setting to which family we'd visit for the holidays. But we handled it well, I thought. We talked. We made time. Friday date nights were sacred. No phones, no work talk, just us. Then her career exploded. A promotion to senior marketing director meant more responsibility, bigger clients, and yes, more travel. At first it was once a month, then twice, and soon it felt like she was away more than she was home. But I supported her. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You back their dreams. You don't hold them back because of your own insecurities. When she came home exhausted from a week in Chicago or LA, I'd have dinner ready, draw her a bath, listen to her vent about difficult clients and useless colleagues. I thought I was being a good husband. I thought we were building something together, even if that building required some temporary distance. I was wrong about so many things. That evening started like any other Friday. I got home around 6, swapped my work clothes for jeans and a t-shirt, grabbed a beer, and settled on the couch with a World War II documentary. Melissa was supposedly in Portland for a 3-day conference. She'd left Wednesday morning, kissed me goodbye at the door, reminded me to water her plants in the sunroom. My phone rang around 7:30. It was Ben, one of my oldest friends from college. "Drew, you have to come out tonight, man. It's Marcus's birthday. We're hitting that new club downtown, the Apex. Everyone's gonna be there." I groaned. "Bro, I'm exhausted. Long week. I'm just gonna chill at home. Come on, when's the last time you hung out with us? You've turned into a hermit. Melissa's out of town anyway, right? What else are you gonna do? Watch the History Channel by yourself on a Friday night?" He had a point, but I still pushed back. "I don't know, man. Not really in the mood for loud music and overpriced drinks." 1 hour, he bargained. "Just come for 1 hour. Have a few drinks. Wish Marcus a happy birthday. Then you can go home and be boring." "Deal." I sighed. Ben could be persistent when he wanted to. And honestly, I had been isolating myself lately. Between work and Melissa's travel schedule, my social life had withered to almost nothing. "Fine. 1 hour. That's my boy. We're meeting at 9 o'clock. Dress nice. This place has a dress code." After we hung up, I actually felt a small spark of energy. Maybe getting out would do me good. I showered, put on black slacks and a button-down, checked myself in the mirror. Not bad for a guy who'd been eating too much takeout. I texted Melissa, Heading out with Ben and the guys for Marcus's birthday. Miss you. Hope the conference is going well. She replied almost instantly. Have fun, baby. Don't drink too much. Face-blowing kiss conference is boring as always. Love you. I smiled at my phone. See, everything was fine. That weird feeling I'd had earlier, that nagging intuition that something was off, that was just anxiety. The kind that creeps up when you spend too much time alone with your own head. The apex was packed. The bass from the music vibrated through the floor, through my chest. Strobe lights cut through artificial fog. Beautiful people in expensive clothes crowded around high tables, shouting over the noise. I found Ben and the group near the VIP section. Marcus, the birthday boy, was already 3 drinks in and thrilled to see me. Andrew, you actually came. I thought you'd turned into a vampire who only comes out during business hours. We laughed, did shots, fell into that easy rhythm of male friendship, sports, work complaints, good-natured insults. For the first time in weeks, I felt relaxed, present, connected to something other than my laptop screen or an empty house. That's when I saw her. At first, just a glimpse, a flash of familiar dark hair across the crowded club. My brain registered it, then dismissed it immediately. Melissa was in Portland, over 100 miles away. Just some woman with similar hair. But something made me look again. Some primal instinct that overrides logic. She was standing near the bar, maybe 30 feet away. The lights were dim, the crowd thick. But I knew. I knew the way she stood, the way she tilted her head when she laughed, the exact curve of her shoulder in that black dress. The one I'd watched her try on 3 months earlier when we went shopping together. My heart started hammering. This wasn't possible. It had to be a mistake. Maybe she'd cut her trip short. Maybe there'd been an emergency, and she'd flown back early and came here to surprise me because Ben had posted about the party online. But even as I built those explanations, I knew they were lies. I knew because of how close she was standing to a man I'd never seen before. Because of how she was smiling at him. Because of the intimate space between them, the kind that speaks of familiarity, comfort, something that turned my stomach to ice. I started moving toward them, pushing through the crowd. My friends called after me, but their voices sounded distant, muffled, like I was underwater. Everything had narrowed to one point. My wife, in a club she shouldn't be in a city she shouldn't be in, with a man who wasn't me. I was about 10 feet away when she laughed at something he said, reached up, and kissed him. Not a peck, not an accidental brush. A real kiss. The kind that tells a story of other kisses, of history, of a relationship built in shadows and lies. The world stopped. Actually stopped. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel every pulse of blood through my veins. The club noise faded to white noise. I watched my wife, pull away from this stranger's mouth and smile at him with a look I thought was reserved only for me. I don't remember deciding to approach them. My body moved on autopilot, driven by something primal and hurt and furious. Melissa. My voice came out steady, cold. I barely recognized it. She turned. Her face cycled through about 5 emotions in 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, shock, fear, and then a desperate attempt at composure. Andrew, what are you? I thought you were. Seattle? Portland? Which city did you tell me this time? I looked at the man next to her. Handsome in a generic way, tall, athletic, expensive watch. Confused, but not scared. Not yet. Who's this? Drew, this isn't. You don't understand. The man stepped forward. Look, buddy, I don't know who you are. That's when I hit him. I'm not a violent person. I haven't been in a fight since high school. But something snapped. My fist connected with his jaw, and he stumbled backward, crashing into a group of people behind him. Chaos erupted. People screamed. Security guards materialized. Ben and Marcus grabbed my arms, pulling me back. The man was on the ground, holding his face, staring up at me with a mix of shock and anger. And Melissa stepped between us, hands up, and screamed something that shattered whatever was left of my heart. Don't touch him. You don't understand. This isn't what it looks like. I stared at her. Really stared. This woman I'd shared a bed with for 5 years. This woman I'd imagined growing old with, having kids with, building a lifetime with. Not what it looks like. I repeated slowly. You're kissing another man in a club when you're supposed to be at a business conference. What exactly am I misunderstanding, Melissa? Security was pushing through the crowd now. People were filming on their phones. The man was getting up, helped by his friends. Sir, you need to leave now. A large guard gripped my arm. I didn't resist. I looked at Melissa one more time. She was crying, mascara running down her cheeks, reaching for me. Drew, please, let me explain. Don't, I said quietly. Don't say another word. I let security escort me out, let Ben and Marcus follow, asking questions I couldn't answer. I stood on the sidewalk in the cool night air, my hand throbbing, my mind completely blank. Dude, what the hell just happened? Ben asked. That was my wife, I said. That was Melissa. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. The thought of sleeping in our bed, surrounded by our things, in the house where we'd made promises, it was suffocating. Ben took me to his apartment. He didn't ask questions, didn't push for details. Just handed me a beer, gave me a blanket, and let me sit in silence on his couch while I tried to process. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls from Melissa, texts, voicemails. I turned it off. I stared at the ceiling all night, watching shadows move, replaying the past 6 years, searching for clues I'd missed. There had to have been signs, right? You don't just wake up one day and start an affair. It's a progression, a series of choices, lies stacked on lies. The Portland conference that never happened, or maybe it did, but she wasn't there. How many others? How many business trips were actually meetings with him? I thought about all the times she'd come home and I'd asked about her trip, and she'd given me detailed stories about boring meetings and hotel food. Were those lies too? How much of my life had been fiction? When the sun finally came up, I felt hollow. Not angry, not hurt, just empty, like someone had reached into my chest and scooped everything out. I called work and took a personal week. My manager, who'd never heard me take a sick day in 3 years, didn't ask questions. I turned my phone back on and immediately blocked Melissa's number. Then I called a divorce attorney. Melissa Lawson, by the time you read this, you'll have already tried to call me dozens of times. You'll have texted, left voicemails, maybe even come by the house. I won't answer. I won't be home. And you need to understand why. I married you because I loved you, not past tense out of bitterness. I genuinely loved you with everything I had. I trusted you completely, which I now realize was foolish, but it was real. When you said you were traveling for work, I believed you. When you kissed me goodbye at the door, I never doubted that you were mine and I was yours. That night in the club destroyed me. Not just because I saw you kissing another man, though that image will probably haunt me forever, but because in that single moment, I realized everything I thought was real was actually a carefully constructed lie. How many trips, Melissa? How many times did you look me in the eyes and tell me you loved me? Then go do that. I don't want explanations. I don't want to hear about how it just happened, or how you never meant to hurt me, or any of the other cliches people use to justify betrayal. None of it matters. The why doesn't change the what. I filed for divorce. The papers are on the kitchen table. My attorney will handle everything. The house was purchased before we married and remains solely in my name. So I need you to move out within the next 7 days. I've arranged movers to help you pack. Take whatever you want. Furniture, art, kitchen stuff. I don't care. The only thing I'm keeping is my dignity. And you can't take that from me, because you've already given me the greatest gift, clarity. I'm not going to trash you to our friends, or tell your family, or post angry rants online. I'm simply going to remove you from my life as cleanly and efficiently as possible, the way I'd remove a tumor. Thank you for showing me who you really are. You saved me from wasting any more years on someone who was never really mine. Andrew Pierce. Don't contact me. Don't show up at my work. Don't use our mutual friends as intermediaries. I'll see you in court, and that's the last time I'll see you at all. Through mutual friends and unavoidable social media breadcrumbs, I eventually learned the rest of the story. Not because I went looking, I genuinely tried to move on, but because people love to gossip, especially about dramatic relationship collapses. Melissa's affair partner was named Derek, a consultant she'd met at a real conference 6 months earlier. It started as emotional cheating, long texts, late-night calls under the guise of work. Then it turned physical when they started syncing their travel schedules to be in the same cities. Some of her business trips were real, but many were fabricated. She'd take a Friday off, tell me she was flying to Chicago, and actually drive 2 hours to meet Derek at a hotel in a neighboring state. She'd post old conference photos on social media to keep up the illusion. She'd memorize details about cities she'd visited before just to answer my questions convincingly. The sickest part? She once told me about a coworker having an affair, and we talked about how pathetic and selfish cheaters are. She looked me right in the eye and said, "I could never do that to you. It would kill me." And I believed her. That night I caught them wasn't even supposed to happen. Derek lived in my city, but they usually met elsewhere to avoid detection. That night, Melissa told me she was in Portland, but she was actually staying at a downtown hotel with him. They went to the Apex because it was new and trendy, and Derek wanted to impress her. She never imagined I'd be there. The odds were basically zero. But I was, and her entire double life collapsed in seconds. Here's the part that might sound petty, but gave me grim satisfaction. Derek ghosted her almost immediately after I confronted them. After the drama, the scene, the social media storm, he apparently decided she wasn't worth the trouble. Blocked her number, avoided her at industry events, and within 3 weeks was posting photos with another woman. Melissa had destroyed her marriage for a man who dumped her the moment things got messy. There's probably a lesson there about how people who help you cheat rarely stick around for the fallout. But I didn't need to learn it. She did. The divorce was surprisingly smooth. Melissa didn't fight anything. She signed the papers without drama, hired an attorney who barely spoke to mine, and moved out within the week I'd asked. She took her clothes, her books, some home office furniture, and a few pieces of art we'd bought together. She left her key on the kitchen counter the day the movers came. I stayed at Ben's apartment. Didn't want to see her, didn't want to risk a conversation that might make me feel sorry for her or give her a chance to explain. My attorney told me she tried to contest the house at first, arguing that 5 years of marriage entitled her to shared property. But since I'd bought it 2 years before we married and the deed was solely in my name, she had no claim. That seemed to break something in her. The reality that she'd torched everything and had nothing to show for it, but shame and an empty apartment in a part of town she'd once called depressing. Friends told me she was a mess, lost weight, saw a therapist, apparently quit her job because facing colleagues who knew about the affair was too humiliating. A small, vindictive part of me felt satisfied, but mostly I felt nothing. The hardest part wasn't the legal stuff or dividing assets, it was the small moments. Waking up and instinctively reaching for her side of the bed, only to find it cold and empty. Making coffee and automatically pouring 2 cups. Hearing a song on the radio that we used to dance to in the living room, and having to pull over because I couldn't see through the tears. Walking past restaurants where we'd celebrated anniversaries. Avoiding whole aisles in the grocery store because they carried her favorite tea. Changing my running route because it went by the park where I'd proposed. It was the phantom pain of losing someone who was never really there in the first place. 6 months after that night, I was a different person. Not better, not worse, just different. I threw myself into work, got a promotion I probably didn't deserve, but accepted anyway because ambition felt healthier than alcohol or bitterness. I started going to the gym, not to get revenge or make Melissa regret leaving, but because physical pain distracted from emotional pain, and endorphins were free. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected, went to more birthday parties, dinners, weekend hikes. I learned to be alone without being lonely. Cooked for one without feeling pathetic. Watched movies I actually wanted to watch. Decorated my house the way I wanted. Lived on my own schedule instead of coordinating with someone else. The house that had once felt like a mausoleum of dead dreams slowly became mine again. I repainted the bedroom, donated the furniture Melissa left behind, bought new sheets that didn't carry her scent or memory. I adopted a dog, a rescue pit bull named Max, who'd been abandoned by his previous owners. Seemed fitting. I didn't date. Wasn't interested. The idea of trusting someone again felt laughable, impossible. Every woman who showed interest was automatically suspect. What was she hiding? What lies would she tell? How long before she revealed her true colors? My therapist, yes, I started seeing one because pretending to be fine wasn't working, said this was normal. Trust, once shattered, doesn't reassemble easily. It's not like a broken bone that heals stronger. It's more like shattered glass. You can glue the pieces back together, but the cracks never disappear and you'll never handle it carelessly again. I learned to be okay with that. People kept asking if I wanted revenge, to expose Melissa, ruin her reputation, make her suffer the way she'd made me suffer. I didn't. Not because I'm noble or enlightened, but because I realized something important. The best revenge isn't destruction, it's indifference. Moving forward while they're stuck in the wreckage of their own choices. Melissa lost more than a husband. She lost her integrity, her self-respect, her place in our friend group, most of whom quietly stopped inviting her, and apparently her career momentum. She traded a stable marriage and a life we were building together for a fling with a man who couldn't even be bothered to answer her calls once things got complicated. The universe delivered its own justice. I didn't need to add to it. Meanwhile, I was genuinely okay. Not happy in the way I'd been before. That naive, trusting happiness that comes from believing you truly know someone, but okay in a different way. A resilient way. The kind that comes from surviving something you didn't think you could survive. I learned that I could handle being alone. That my identity wasn't defined by being someone's husband. That I could rebuild a life from scratch when necessary. Those are valuable lessons, even if they came at a terrible cost. If my friends hadn't insisted I come out that night, if I'd stayed home like I wanted, watching documentaries and drinking beer alone, if I'd missed Marcus's party, I'd still be living a lie. I'd still be the fool who believed every business trip, every late-night conference call, every rehearsed story about boring hotels and terrible client dinners. I'd still be planning a future with someone who was simultaneously planning a separate future with someone else. The truth would have come out eventually. It always does. But it might have been years later, after we'd had kids, after we'd bought a bigger house, after our lives were even more tangled and complicated. The pain would have been exponentially worse. That night in the club destroyed me, but it also saved me. It gave me something precious and rare, clarity. Absolute certainty that leaving was the right choice. No doubts, no what-ifs, no wondering if I'd made a mistake or given up too soon. I saw the truth with my own eyes. No ambiguity. No room for her to gaslight me or twist my perception. That's a gift, in its own twisted way. So when people say, "I'm so sorry about what happened to you," I started responding differently. I'm not, I tell them. It hurt like hell, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But I'm not sorry I found out. I'm not sorry I walked away. I'm not sorry I chose myself. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Choosing yourself when someone else has made it clear they didn't choose you. It's been a year since that night, 12 months since my life imploded, and I had to rebuild from rubble. I'm sitting on my back porch with Max asleep at my feet, watching the sunset paint my yard in orange and purple. The house is quiet, but not empty. There's a difference. I've learned to appreciate silence, to find peace in solitude. My phone buzzes, a text from Ben. Poker night at my place Friday? I smile and type back, "Yeah, I'm in." Last month, I ran into Melissa at a coffee shop. We hadn't seen each other since before the divorce was final. She looked different, thinner, tired, older somehow. She approached cautiously, like I might explode or cause a scene. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi. How are you?" "Good," I said honestly. "Really good." She nodded, looked like she wanted to say more, but I picked up my coffee and walked past her. Not rudely, not dramatically, just walked past like she was any other stranger in a coffee shop. Because that's what she was now, a stranger who happened to look like someone I used to know. Later, a friend asked if it had been hard to see her, if it had brought back all the pain and anger. It hadn't. I felt nothing. And that, more than anything, told me I'd truly moved on. People ask if I'll ever marry again, if I'll ever trust someone enough to let them in. I don't know. Maybe someday, maybe never. Right now, I'm focused on building a life I'm proud of, whether I share it with someone or not. I'm working on a startup with a couple of colleagues. It might fail, but at least it's something I'm excited about. I'm training Max to be a therapy dog so we can visit hospitals and nursing homes. I'm planning a solo backpacking trip through Southeast Asia next year. I'm living, actually living, not just existing in the shadow of someone else's lies. That night in the club, the worst night of my life, was also the beginning of something better. A life based on truth instead of illusion. A life where I control my own narrative instead of being a supporting character in someone else's betrayal story. Sometimes fate doesn't push you towards something beautiful. Sometimes it pushes you away from something toxic that's disguised as love. Sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you is actually fate saving you from wasting more years on the wrong person. I used to think I was unlucky to discover my wife's affair that way. So public, so humiliating. Now I realize I was lucky. Lucky to have friends who insisted I come out that night, even when I didn't want to. Lucky to find out the truth while I was still young enough to rebuild. Lucky to get clarity instead of living in comfortable ignorance. They say ignorance is bliss. but I'll take painful truth over comfortable lies any day. Because at least with truth, you know where you stand. At least you can make informed decisions. At least you can heal from real wounds instead of being slowly poisoned by hidden deception. I'm 35 now, single, living in a house I bought myself, with a dog I rescued, chasing dreams that are entirely my own. And you know what? I'm happy, genuinely, authentically happy, in a way I never was during those 5 years of marriage, even before I knew about the affair. Because this happiness is mine. It doesn't depend on someone else's choices, fidelity, or honesty. It's just mine, and no one can take that away from me. So to my friends who dragged me to that club against my will, thank you. You saved my life that night, even though it didn't feel like it at the time. To Melissa, I don't forgive you, but I don't hate you either. You're just a closed chapter now. I hope you found whatever you were looking for, and I hope it was worth the cost. To anyone listening who's been betrayed, had their trust shattered, had to rebuild from nothing, it gets better. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually. The pain becomes manageable. The anger becomes indifference. The loss becomes liberation. And one day you'll realize that the person who broke your heart actually set you free. That's not forgiveness. That's not saying it was okay or that it didn't hurt. It's just acknowledging that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best transformations. Sometimes you have to lose who you were to discover who you're meant to be. And sometimes fate drags you to a club on a Friday night, not for entertainment, but to open your eyes to a truth you needed to see, even if it destroys you in the process, even if rebuilding takes everything you've got. Because a life built on truth, no matter how painful that truth is, will always be better than a life built on lies, no matter how comfortable those lies feel. That's what I've learned in the years since my world fell apart. That's the wisdom that came from the wreckage. And if I had to go through it all again, the pain, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the humiliation, to end up where I am now, I would. In a heartbeat. Because this life, this honest, clear-eyed, independent life, is worth every moment of suffering it took to get here. That's the truth nobody tells you about betrayal. Sometimes it's not the end of your story. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a better one.